Hi, you guys. Welcome to another first subscriber wholesale deal interview. And you guys, today I have a very special guest. She is going to be our first girl onto the channel. I'm going to have her share with you guys her stories, her first wholesale deal, how she made $9,500. And so you guys, let's put your hands together and help me welcome Mariah from Portland, Oregon. Mariah, how's it going?
It's going so well. It's summer here in Portland, and this is the best time. If you're going to come to Portland, now is the time. Otherwise, it is drizzly and rainy and kind of gray. So it's a good Monday so far, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. Thank you so much for coming on. And you guys, she is the first girls onto our channel. So I want to say congrats and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting. I haven't found too many female wholesalers on YouTube, so it seems to be a pretty male-dominated space. So I'm very excited to be here to represent. Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. You know, I think there is you guys are probably just trying to keep it on the download.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I was even a part of some like female wholesaling groups. I don't want to bash them or anything, but I just feel like men are like, okay, let's go, let's get it. Like no feelings. Like let's just do this. So whatever, it's fine. I don't mind following people like yourself who are inspiring and motivating and who don't mind helping people out who are just beginning.
You know what, Mariah? It makes you now become, like, in the female sections, extraordinary.
Great. I don't mind being that. Yeah, once I get going and I feel like I have a little bit more wisdom under my belt, I do intend to, start my social media up geared towards real estate. But right now I definitely feel like I'm still learning and I need a little bit more wisdom.
Gotcha. So, Mariah, let's jump into it. Take on the show. Share your stories and then your first wholesale deal.
Yeah, so I'm actually trained as a licensed massage therapist and Reiki healer, which I really love that. I really love the interpersonal relationships, but now that I'm approaching my 30s, I'm like, okay, well, I want to have a family. I want to live a comfortable life and be financially free. And although I love massage, it's very difficult to do that. And so about a year ago, it's July, about a year ago, I fell down the entrepreneurial hole of internet marketing, email marketing. I had a Shopify store. I was trying literally everything, social media marketing, just kind of dipping my toes around. And then my partner, who is also my business partner, she was like, hey, she's a nurse. She was like, hey, I am trying to start this real estate thing. I can't do it because I'm working full time. Let's just combine forces, just focus on the business, and let's just make this happen, because we were kind of in a competition. She was going to do real estate, and I was going to do the Shopify store. And then it was like, okay, let's stop competing and work together. So that's what we're doing now. And we joined forces in March and then landed our first deal closing in June, although I had the contract signed early May. But we had some complications because it was our first deal. So there was a lot of learning along this process for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Mariah, I want to say congrats. That's awesome. So you started in March, and within 3 months or so, or within 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Hired you up on the contract.
Yeah, exactly. We had sent out, we didn't completely do this alone like a lot of people. We did have a mentor, but they weren't exactly like as available, and I don't think their personalities were as compatible as like ours with you. Like we really enjoyed how personable you were, and like you're not like on some kind of pedestal. Like you're really like, okay, I remember what the grassroots feels like. So yeah, we started with our tax delinquent list and mailed that out and received a lot of responses, some positive and some negative, and that was really interesting to adapt to. Just some people really not wanting to be contacted, but that's a part of the game. Real estate is very competitive. Portland is a relatively small market because of our growth boundary. So people are definitely being contacted from a lot of different angles here. But I believe it was on our fourth appointment, I got this contract signed. And honestly, I just went on the appointment. If I could feel that they were flexible in their price, even if we were tens of thousands of dollars apart, I still went on the appointment because I needed to get used to speaking with homeowners. So even though I was like, this might not work, I was like, okay, I need to go and get my toes wet and start feeling what this feels like with different types of people. So after the third appointment where I knew it wasn't going to work out, I was like, okay, this sucks. But I just knew, I was like, you're one phone call away, you're one appointment away. And then literally the next time I picked up the phone, I had calculated our offer price, and at the time what I thought was our proper offer price. And I was like, okay, well, what is your asking price? And he was like, $450. And I looked at my paper, which I had circled the number that when I thought I had, I'll get into this later, but it was the wrong number. But anyway, my paper said $450. He said $450. I was like, oh man, here it is. Let's go. So I get there and everything's going great. I'm building rapport, taking some time, looking around his house. He was very, he wasn't the most warm person, but I could tell the longer I was sitting with him, the more he was opening up. And I had brought my contract with me, and I said, okay, here's the thing. I have the contract. I can literally, hand you $450,000, 30 days maximum. Right. And he was like, oh, wow. And it's interesting. Portland's an interesting place. I don't feel like there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are my age. Portland's kind of a really chill, like hipster town where people aren't very like business oriented. So I think he was kind of caught off guard and asking me a lot of questions about, why do you have access to like $500,000? And I said, don't worry about it. We just do, And so he said, okay, leave the contract here. I'll call you back in 3 days. And I said, okay, let me know if you have any questions, if you want to hash anything out. He was 65, lived in this huge 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, all by himself. His kids are gone. He's divorced. And the house was just too much for him. He wanted out, and he wanted to downsize, and he's thinking about retirement and what that looks like for him. So it was really cool to be able to take some of my interpersonal skills from massage into my rapport and relationship building with my clients. I think that's kind of been like my magic, is being able to fuse those two. And then he called me back 3 days later. It was actually my partner's birthday, our anniversary. We were camping, and he called us back, and he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I signed the paper. And we were like, whoa, yeah. It was just like an awesome day where it was like everything was going so well. We didn't have to wait at our restaurant. There was no traffic. It was just like one of those gorgeous days where like everything's like, oh, like there's nothing going wrong, right? And then we get back into town, and I'm like, okay, how about a week from today, we're going to have in some of our investors and their inspectors come check out the house. What's a good time? He is already not a very personable person, so he was okay not being there. So we had the whole house to ourselves. But now it was my partner's chance to kind of do the disposition stuff, because I do acquisitions. So we already had like a cash buyers list of like 30 or so people. But we are also part of some real estate investing groups and on Facebook. And so that's actually where we found the majority of the people who are actually interested. And so we kind of sent out this email, a picture of the house, making sure that we are selling the contract, not the house. I feel super paranoid about that, making sure we're not being a broker. And then, so we had the house under contract for $450, and I think we were trying to flip it for $465, thinking that the ARV would be somewhere over $600,000, and the house needed around, I think it was like $70,000, but it was dead. Nobody responded. None of our cash buyers. The initial response, we were just like, here are the details of the house, here's the ARV, here are the estimated cost of repairs. I think I initially thought it would only be around $50,000 because I'm new and I didn't know. And it was dead silence. And I was pacing around the house. I was like, this isn't supposed to happen. We're supposed to put out the deal, send out the emails, send out the mass text messages. And it was like, once we sent out the full details, the property of the house and the full address, and people were kind of doing their own ARV and comparing it with the MLS, everyone was like, no, there's something that's not right. And I was like, oh my God. So I went back and I recalculated, and Khang, I overestimated our asking price by $40,000.
Oh, wow.
$40,000. And I realized this, and I felt so bad because I knew, I was like, I'm either going to lose this deal or Frank, the homeowner, is going to be upset because he's not going to be getting his $450,000. So after I crunched the numbers and made sure that the final number that I was going to offer was solid, my numbers came back to like 409, and so I was like, okay, 410. If we're going to salvage this, I'm just going to offer him 410. If he doesn't want to go for it, like, I completely get it. Because I was like, going from $450,000 to $410,000, like, that's a big jump. That's a huge jump.
Right.
Oh, God, man. And I just will never forget this first phone call. And so it was like 8 o'clock at night. I had been reconfiguring numbers all day. We weren't getting any good feedback. Like, it wasn't that people were like, hey, I think your number's too high. It was like silence. Nobody was even interested once we sent out the address. So I was like, okay, something's going on. And I was like, okay, so our number's 410. And then we kind of had been speaking with some other investors like, hey, if we bring it down, you know, we ended up flipping the contract for 419. If we bring it down to 419 from 465, is that better? And then everyone was like super pumped. We started getting responses, and we were like, okay, because that's how you know that there's something wrong with your number, right? So I call the homeowner. It's like 8 o'clock at night. I was like, I either have to call him now so he can go to bed and sleep on it, because I don't want to ruin his day the whole next day. So I call him at 8:30 at night. He's like, hey, you know, what's going on? I was like, Frank, you know, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to cancel the contract. I had to like revert back to our program to see how to handle this. I was like, and they said, don't chase the homeowner. Just act like you have to, you know, cancel the contract. Don't chase them, you know. And I was like, hey, Frank, I'm going to have to cancel the contract. Should I send that document to the house, or do you want me to send it to an email or what? And he was like, what do you mean you have to cancel it? I was like, Frank, I recalculated the numbers. I made a big mistake. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cancel the contract. And he was like, well, how much can you do? And I was like, well, Frank, you know, the house needs about $70,000 worth of work. You know, you're not going to pay for any of the closing costs. There's no realtor fees. Like, what is the best that you can do? You know? And it was so hard. God, it was so hard. And, you know, he was like, well, what's your number? And I was like, okay, well, you know, if we're going to do this, we have to be somewhere around 410,000. And he was like, okay, that's a big jump. That's like my 1 year salary jump down. And I was like, I know. That's why I called to cancel the contract, because if that's not going to work for you, we ultimately want to do what's best for you. You know, what's going to make you happy, but also allows us space to make profit and do the business that we're in. So this has to work for everyone. And if it doesn't, then that's okay. Then this isn't meant to be. And he's like, okay, I'll call you back in 2 days. I was like, okay. And then we go to bed thinking, oh man, we lost this contract. Here we go again. Like, so much time down the hole. And then he calls me back like the next day in higher spirits. He's like, you want to know what? I honestly knew that was a little too high, because the house does need work, and like, la, la, la. You know, and he had it set in his mind. He was getting prepared to move. He had been there for 30 years. And so he was like, okay, let's move forward. And I was like, oh, okay, great. We salvaged it. We salvaged it. Yeah, that was crazy.
Wow, Mariah, that was okay. So, you know,
yeah,
Mariah, the phone call. And what I really like about this is the phone call. When you call back to the seller, instead of trying to talk about negotiating, you just said, hey, you know what? We just have to cancel. And then having the seller saying, hey, what's going on? What's going to work for you guys? And then how you handle that, I love it. You know, we got to make a profit. It doesn't seem like it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. And we want you to do what's best for you. Mariah, that is awesome.
Yeah, that was like the hardest thing out of this whole. We had the contract signed like early May, and we were thinking, okay, a couple weeks, because and then it was a week after that, we were going to have our open house. So within a few days of me sending out this email, I knew there was something wrong. We weren't getting the feedback that was necessary to be, you know, having a deal right now. And so, so once we agreed, I went back over there, got a new contract signed, took that to our title office. I had already, right after he signed the contract, I had already taken it to title and paid the deposit. And then the next hump is the anxiety of, oh my gosh, are the buyers going to show up on inspection day? And so we had some people kind of being wish-washy. Yeah, maybe I'll show up. I think we had 3 people show up to the open house out of like 10 that had expressed interest, right? But, you know, it's Portland in summer. So people are like, I'm going to go to the beach. You know,
Right.
everybody's like, oh God, the sun's out now. We got to enjoy it. Anyway, so 3 people show up. One guy is he's just wanting to constantly build relationship, ask questions, build rapport. It was his first deal. He, I think, was trained through the Than program. He's a flipper. Another guy, he wasn't so like friendly, but you could tell he had cash and he could buy now. And so we were kind of between this guy who wasn't really trying to build a relationship or build rapport with us, who we know could probably close faster, versus a guy who was like very relationship oriented, wanted to work with each other long term, but also had a private lender. So we kind of had to decide between these 2 guys. And then after the walkthrough, we were like, hey, you know, email us. This is our first deal. So we didn't know you're supposed to say, hey, give me a $2,000 check right now. I'm going to take it to title. And the first person who does that, that's the guy who's going to get the deal, right? We're like, oh, send us an email with your offer. And then we'll go from there. So the cash now guy, he was like, well, what are you asking for? We're like, $419. He goes, okay. And he sends us an offer, but he was like, I can't close until like June 18th. And at the time, we didn't know that the title of the house wasn't clean. So we didn't go with him because we were thinking of the homeowner who we said 30 days, you know, and so he needed to get things going. So the second cash buyer who was building rapport with us, it was his first deal. So he was really nurturing it, and we were all kind of going really slow together. So it was kind of nice. He was like, okay, I'm going to offer you, you know, $419,500. So $500 more than the other guy. And he was like, and I can close faster. So I was like, okay, let's go with you. You offered us more money. Your timeline matches better with the homeowner. Let's get this thing going. And I don't know, like, I want you to tell me if this is normal. Some of our other mentors that we follow for wholesaling, they were like, do not do this. But this cash buyer, he wanted a 10-day addendum inspection period added to the assignment and assumption addendum to where he could back out of the deal. And we didn't know about that until we had said no to the other cash buyer. So here we are with this cash buyer who's like, yeah, I can pay you $500 more and I can close faster. But upon signing the assignment and assumption, I want a 10-day inspection period where I'm going to check, you know, I'm going to do a scope check, and just to make sure there's no animals hiding anywhere or mold, because we're here in Oregon. And I want to be able to back out within that 10-day inspection period. And we were like, oh, this is just not what we were thinking. But okay, fine. We trust you. We've been building rapport. He seemed really interested. You know, his whole family is going to try to fix up this house. So we were like, fine. We contacted our attorney and we were like, hey, we need you to bring up this addendum. And then we realized that the assignment assumption our attorney had created, he had written it in such a way that would mean that upon the cash buyer signing the assignment and assumption, he would then cut us a personal check for $9,500. And we were like, no, we want to receive our check from the title company. And so we were going back and forth with our attorney because he was like, you guys are acting like brokers if you're getting a check from your title company. But the title company said it was fine. It was just so many learning curves in this first deal. So we get him the 10-day assignment and assumption. And then we get the preliminary title report back from the title company. And the title is not clean. Obviously, he owes taxes. That's how we found him, tax delinquent. But he had some other stuff on there that from like way back when he bought the house, there was like a loan and it wasn't stamped as cleared. So it was like all of this stuff that needed to happen last minute. And that we thought, the owner thought the title was clean. You know, I was like, is there anything else that we need to worry about? He was like, no, it's fine. And then it was like all of these things that he didn't know about, child support, like all this stuff. It was just like one thing after another getting caught up. And the cash buyer was like, hey, you know, you guys are supposed to have this figured out before I sign this. And I was like, there was no way for us to know. You know, we had the preliminary report. You literally read it the same time we did. and he's learning all of this information within that 10-day period. So we're like, oh man, is he going to back out? Like, this sucks. And so what originally could have taken just a few weeks ended up taking a little bit over a month. And so as the title was getting taken care of, the cash buyer, he was going over there a lot. He was like getting really emotionally into the house, which made us feel more safe. And then the 10-day period passed. We were like, cool, there's no backing out. And then it was like I don't know. It's tricky because when we say as is, when we're flipping the contract, we're trying to learn like how much of that as is as is, because then the cash buyer was like, well, this, I found this, and then I found this. And we're just like, hey, as is as is, and he wasn't super thrilled when he saw on the assignment and assumption that we were going to be walking away with $9,500. In the state of Oregon, our attorney, who I'm not entirely sure we'll be moving forward with, we might get a new one. Apparently all transactions are transparent. So it's more risky to double close because the end buyer can see how much you purchased the home for. So you can't really double close the way we see a lot of other people double closing without disclosing how much we initially bought the home for. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So we're thinking, okay, well, that ultimately limits how much we can make on a deal, because I don't think we'll be able to work a deal where we make more than the flipper makes. Who knows though? Maybe we will be able to. But so all of these things were coming up with the cash buyer, and so he was like, hey, rather than taking it out of your assignment fee, I'm going to try to talk the homeowner down another $9,000. Because of all of this miscellaneous stuff he was saying. And I was like, okay, you can try to do that. Please don't break the deal. Like, come on, like, let's just get things moving. You saw the house, you knew how much it was going to need. And I just feel like he's trying to take stuff off here and there. Anyway, the homeowner said no. He was like, no, I already came down $40,000. This is my final price. Like, let's do what we need to do and get this closed. So then I get a phone call, we call the title and they're like, okay, we'll close this week. And then a week goes by and it's like, no, we're going to close this week. And then another week goes by and it was just like this prolonged closing. And then I get a call from the cash buyer and he's like, or a text from the homeowner. And he goes, hey, I signed. And I was like, okay, awesome. Let's go. Let's close this up. We were like, oh, we were in the clear. He's like, he signed. Great. And then I get a call from the cash buyer like a week after I get this text message from the homeowner. And he was like, hey, so the homeowner is in Mexico and there's still a bunch of appliances and stuff left on the side of the house. And my private lender won't release the funds until all these appliances are moved because it's a liability. And we were just like, in a way we were just like, and like, move it, like just move the stuff. And then we were remembering, okay, we read this book called The Go Giver, where you are supposed to go give. Instead of being like a go-getter, go give, because then you're making space to receive. So we were like, okay, cash buyer, we will pay for all the junk to be removed. And when we remove it, like, let's close the deal, release the funds, let's get going. Because it was just like taking too long. Next thing you know, we're like over 30 days. And so I got that call from him that Friday. By Sunday, I was there with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and we were moving all the stuff, and I texted him a photo after, and I was like, hey, boom, here's the photo. Let's get this thing closed. Let's go. And then it wasn't until that Thursday that it was just like everything was slow moving. We were just like, come on, we're doing everything. We needed that check so that we could pay for our next mailing. So all of our marketing was put on hold. And so finally, I get a call from Title on Thursday, like, hey, come pick up your check. And we were just like, oh man, it was just so surreal. Like finally walking into the title company. This was their first wholesaling deal. They were not used to working with investors and assignment contracts. They were like completely learning. We were all learning together. And so when we walked into the title company and we picked up that check, it was just like this, oh man, this is what that feels like. This is that moment that everybody talks about on YouTube, and like, this is what our moment looks like. And so it was just like such a cool feeling.
Awesome. Yeah. Mariah, what a great story. And what a great story. And everything and how you handle everything was like on the same page as I would, because I ran into the exact same thing where the buyer's like, well, we can't release the fund. There's a bunch of, there's a bunch of garbage. I said, okay, no problem. We'll pay for it. You guys close on it. And then, we'll pay for whatever fees that you have to get that out. So we tell the buyer to give us an estimate of how much it's going to cost. And he said, Khang, it's going to cost me like $300. I said, done. I said, just write up an addendum. I'll pay you $300 so you can, that's going to you. You can take care of that once you close. It's all about getting it done and getting it closed.
Exactly. And the cash buyer, he was trying to correspond with this like 70-year-old man who's chilling in Mexico because he's like, oh, I'm going to get a check for $450,000, who's like not internet savvy. He's like trying to communicate with him. He's like, hey, we need an addendum, because he didn't want to pay for it because it would be like a liability on him, right?
Right.
And so he was trying to go about it like the super legal way of having on paper that it's okay for him to remove those things, which I completely understand. But we had built pretty good rapport with the homeowner. And I was like, you want to know what? I'm pretty sure the homeowner will be pleased if we just pay the $400 to get all this stuff moved and he can just chill in Mexico and relax. So we went ahead and did that. And I think it was definitely a good lesson in terms of staying engaged with the homeowner and engaged with the cash buyer in a non-brokery way, right? Our position is we want everyone to win, and we want to get paid. So it's like, if I can do something that will be a catalyst to that, then I will.
Agree. So Mariah, when you lock up the property, how much of an earnest money do you put down to the with the seller?
It was just $500. Yeah.
$500. Perfect. And what do you have the buyer put down?
$500, which we won't do that again. We will not do that again. Yeah. Big learning moment. I was like in our forum, like talking to our mentors anyway. And they were just like, what are you doing? You're supposed to get like $2,000 minimum. And I was like, what? I didn't know that. So we didn't, but yeah, I will not be doing that next time. He needs to have a little bit more skin in the game.
Yeah. Correct. Now, everybody probably want to know tax delinquents. Where did you get that, Mariah?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Tax delinquents.
The tax delinquent list.
Yeah. So
with the county. So we got in touch with the county clerk's office, and that was a whole long thing. They give you this huge list that's just completely disorganized. And so we had the fun of working with a VA and get everything organized in such a way that, we could upload it to Modern Postcard, which is who we use to send out our mail pieces.
Awesome. Now, everybody I know some people email and have an issue of saying, well, I call the county, I try to ask them for the list, but they don't know what I'm talking about. So how do you guys, so what do you guys say?
Yeah. So actually my business partner, that's her job. I don't do that. It overwhelms me. So I think with where we are, they know what you're talking about. So we have like a Multnomah County, Clackamas County, and Washington County. The first two counties, it's pretty easy. You call them, they're like, hey, you need to pay $100 and something if you want to be able to get this information. And then depending on the contact size, you have to pay for it. So it's not free, not where we are anyway. And then this last county, Washington County, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is this list? This list doesn't exist. And so I was like, hey, business partner, you got to go hunting for that. But we've been pretty lucky. We just called the county office and they knew where it was. Yeah. Awesome.
Now, Mariah, your partner, so your partner, how long ago did she got into real estate? She's not an agent, right? She's not an agent.
No. She's a registered nurse. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's a nurse. I went down a huge rabbit hole, and she was always like, no, long term, we want that passive income. We want to be investing in commercial real estate. That's ultimately where we want to go, is commercial real estate. But wholesaling is a way to get the capital and build the connections in order to do that. So I think it was like last October, she purchased this program, but because she worked so much, it was just exhausting for her to like try to build this thing while she's working full time as a nurse. And then my side hustles were not, turns out you need money to make money. So it was just like, I was like, okay, let's combine forces in March. And then I was able to focus and kind of get things moving. where
Very
I
nice.
think
Now, you said that there is a company that you guys use to send out a postcard or letter, and what was it?
Modern Postcard.
Okay, and you guys, I'll make sure I leave that in the description so that way you guys can can go there and check it out. And how much was a postcard?
Oh man, I think we sent out a list of somewhere just over 2,500 properties, and it was about $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many mailing did you guys send out until you got this one locked up on a contract?
No, we got caught up, Khang. We were, it's like the idea is like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna boom, boom, boom. It's gonna be really fast. We were kind of babying this deal because there were some moments where it really felt like if we weren't there to kind of patch the loose ends, it would fall apart. So we really put all of our focus into this deal. So we didn't. So literally today, our second mailing ever will go out. And then we are kind of playing with cold calling a bit. I'm not a huge fan of doing that myself. I thought I would be, but I don't know. Maybe I just need to suck it up and try harder. But our mail piece is going out today. And then I think there will be some other more applicable properties for cold calling specifically. Yeah. So it was another, yeah.
Nice. So Mariah, you guys sent out your first marketing is 2,500 postcard to get this deal under contract?
Yes.
Okay, and then while you're working on that deal, you didn't send out your second.
No, we were so overwhelmed because it felt like everything was going wrong. In the back of our head, we're like, hey, we need to, and then it was like our dollars were caught up because we needed to wait to make the assignment fee. So it wasn't the most ideal first deal in a lot of ways, but it was also just a huge learning curve. So now we're like, okay, this is going to go out. Now we know we got to keep things in the pipeline, keep things moving. Yeah, lots of learning.
Mariah, I was there, so I exactly know what you're talking about. So you guys, basically Mariah spent, and her partner spent about $1,000 or so in postcard, got their first deal, and in return made $9,500 on it. Now you mentioned that you hire a mentor.
Yeah, we did. So this first deal is not all profit. We did invest in mentorship, and that was about $5,000, and then our attorney fees add up, So it was like we really only have a few thousand left once we pay all the overhead to get this deal. So we're really excited to move forward and start actually making profit that we can kind of set aside and reinvest. But it's, it's learning. Everyone thinks, okay, what is it? I think Tony Robbins says, everyone overestimates what they can do in a year, but underestimates what they can do in 5. And so that's the mentality that we're trying to move forward with right now is like, okay, we thought we would be in a different place, but from here, we have a solid foundation and more understanding of the process to the point where now we can just kind of rinse and repeat, and then it will become easier.
Very nice, very nice. Now, and also too, Mariah, you pay $5,000 for mentorship. Is that a one-on-one deal?
No, it wasn't a one-on-one deal. It was it's like you get a forum and a bunch of videos that were great. Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of the program. We learned a lot this year of entrepreneurship, just like it's interesting to see the amount of money people charge for the quality of value that they provide. And granted, I'm grateful. They guided us enough to make $10,000, but it wasn't like I was going to their videos to find inspiration. I would definitely come to your channel and a couple other channels to be like, okay, I need that homegrown, you can do this vibe.
Yeah.
Because, once you start making hundreds of thousands of dollars, people kind of present themselves in a way that's people who are just starting, they can't really understand. And so you haven't lost that homegrown feel, that real nitty gritty, just do this. So we appreciate that. But yes, we did spend $5,000 on this mentorship, and then $3,300 with our attorney, just getting all the paperwork done and the addendums and revisions. The first purchase, and this was his first, he's never worked with wholesalers before. So our attorney sent us a 10-page proper purchase and sale agreement. And we were just no, that's not what we're doing. We need you to condense this into 3. Okay. So he was was just a lot of he's like a proper real estate attorney where he's not used to like these quick deals. And it was interesting because he was like, you guys are brokering. I was like, no, I'm not brokering. I'm literally marketing my contract. This piece of paper is what I'm marketing. And so I think it was really interesting. Everyone was new to this whole thing. So it took way longer than it needed to, but we all learned a lot. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm sure after this first deal, Mariah, you and your partner knows that, man, you guys can go, if you guys can make this much, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we're actually looking at your virtual wholesaling because we live in Oregon. We're not really in a position to relocate to a state. And also, why relocate when you can just virtually wholesale?
There you go.
So yeah, we're definitely going to be looking into your program. Yeah.
Thanks, Mariah, and thank you so much for the kind word. Now, also curious, where do you find your buyer?
Where do we find him?
Yep.
We found him in like a Facebook real estate investing group for Portland.
Portland?
Yeah, for Portland. So we just we posted. We didn't post the address. We just posted the deal details. You know, the after repair value, the cost of repair, and then the contract price. And then we had people respond to that. We also were doing a bit of email marketing. So we sent out a massive email and a massive text message to like 30 different cash buyers who were interested. But it was ultimately the one person from our Facebook group who ended up purchasing, and then another guy we found through ListSource when you look up, you know, different cash buyers and who are buying in your area. There was one guy, and hopefully we'll be working with him in the future because I think he's like much faster. He's like, I have the cash. I'm like wealthy, like no pish posh, no 10-day addendum. Yeah. Do you find that like the 10-day addendum, is that a normal thing for you?
Gotcha. Mariah, let's get some of your questions cleared up. Let's get them answered. So the $500, you guys, when it comes to buyer deposit, Mariah, do not limit yourself. Do not think like, oh, you know what, $2,000, $3,000. I would have said, I would have asked the buyer and always ask them and see how much they will put down. Because a lot of times the number that they mention will be more than what you thought.
Oh, Mariah, so open-ended.
So Mariah, if I typically I get buyers to put like 10,000, 20,000. Like I get them to put all of my assignment fee as non-refundable. I don't do the 2,000. I don't do the 1,000. Like I don't do that. So typically, I mean, in this case, the 9,500, I would have tell the buyer that's exactly how much he has to put down. He's going to move forward towards buying the property as anyway. It doesn't matter. It's going to sit there. It's going to add. It's going to contribute toward his purchase price. So I don't see why he would care if it's 1,000 or it's 9,500. And so my whole thing is obviously we want the buyer to make the non-refundable deposit more than what we have in it. But typically, obviously, we want them to have a ton of skin in the game.
Right.
So they won't walk away. The next thing is no 10 days, no addendum, no contract or backing out, done.
Yeah.
So the thing is that this buyer here is new to the game, so he doesn't know. When you pull a preliminary title report, it doesn't matter, Mariah. It can be 100 different liens on there. Who cares, man? So basically, the buyers know that they're going to buy this property with clear title. So whatever is on there, the buyer shouldn't worry about it, because whatever that is, all he's not going to pay for it. It's going to come out of the seller proceed. So at the time of him receiving it, he's going to get the clear title to the property. He's going to come in to close on it with whatever the amount is. So most buyer that in the game, because he's new, so he's kind of like worried. But most buyer that knows this, when we put in our assignment agreement, is going to be contingent on clear title. That's the only contingent I would put on there, because it gives the buyer a peace of mind that they know that at the time of closing, does not matter what is all the fees, what is all the liens against the property. Doesn't matter if there's 1,000 liens on the property. It just needs to be paid off. And that proceed's going to pay it off coming out of the seller proceed.
Exactly.
So that way the buyer know that who care what it is, what's on there, because the title. So now, Mariah, do you use the attorney or is it a title company?
We use the title company. We use an attorney to get our all of our documents, all of our purchases. So we used an attorney to create our purchase and sale agreement, as well as the assignment and assumption agreement, as well as all the addendums that we had to send back and forth. So that's how we racked up a $3,000 bill. And we didn't know that you could go through title to learn more about those things. But also our title company, they weren't very clear about what we were doing anyway. So it was it was definitely a learning process. Like, for instance, we didn't even know we needed to have them fill out a disclosure form in the state of Oregon. You have to fill out a disclosure form. The homeowner has to go through and say, has there ever been a leak? If yes, when? Has it been fixed? Is there anything going on with the house? Are you going to keep the appliances, the refrigerator, the stove? Are all of those things being sold with the house? Are you going to have them removed? And so so that was a document that we needed in the state of Oregon that we didn't know about. And so I actually had to go back and have the homeowner go through this disclosure form. And then I had to have that, give it to the title company, who then had to send it to the cash buyer and to make sure that he was okay with the terms of that document. And so it was just a big thing where the homeowner said that upon selling of the home, that none of the appliances were going to be sold with the home, but then he ended up leaving them there because he didn't know. I don't know if he was just nervous because I was sitting there kind of watching him fill out the document, so he felt pressured to just go through it really quickly, or if he didn't think it through. But the cash buyer was like, hey, why are all of these appliances from the 80s still in the house? I'm about to flip it and put a whole bunch of new stuff in there. So it was interesting.
Interesting. So the things, Mariah, so you have the attorney drew up the contract. So when you purchased the program, they didn't give you a purchase and sale contract and assignment agreement?
So they did, but I think our mentors are from like Florida. So in every video, they're like, contact your attorney, make sure, give this to your attorney, tell them what to think about this. So when I emailed my attorney and I said, hey, we need a purchase and sale agreement and I need it to look like this. And I attached it, and it was literally 1 page. It was so easy, so clean. It was great. And I said, this is exactly what I want it to look like. And then he, boom, sends me back this 10-page thing. And I was like, this is not going to work. I was trying to go through it just so that I knew how to talk about it with the homeowners. And I was like, I can hardly understand all of the jargon in here. And then we were able to condense it down to 6. And then I was like, hey, we need to bring this down. I literally need for it to be as simple as possible. And his concern was that the more you chop it down, the less protection we have if anyone tries to sell or sue us or anything like that. Which I appreciate him looking out, but it was just like a really dense document.
Yeah. So, Mariah, so the title company you're working with, it seems like they know how to do an assignment agreement, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, have you showed them the 1-page purchase and sale contract?
Yeah. So when I brought the purchase and sale agreement to them, we were like, hey, we are actually going to assign this. We don't want to actually purchase it, but we have some investors we work with. This is what the document looks like. And she was like, okay, great. This works. As long as it gave instructions about what was to happen at closing and how to divvy up the money and what was to be expected. They were really fine with everything.
Gotcha. So for those of you who's watching, basically what it is when they say take it to your attorney, because we don't know if it's a title state or an attorney state, but you just take your contract, send it into your title company. They will review it and they will tell you, oh, you know what, this doesn't work. You need to make this kind of changes. And a lot of times, do not take a no for the rest as a no, because some title company will take our contract and say, this doesn't work. But we brought it to another one and they like, nope, this is perfect. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that and find a title company that know how to do this. That way it will definitely help. It will help you guys out throughout the process, where you don't have to go through attorney, because the attorney, if they obviously majority of them don't know how to do this, they're gonna make sure that everything, like, you're gonna get a ton of paperwork.
Yeah, that's definitely what we went through. And with the assignment and assumption, we were kind of freaking out because, we don't really know what the laws and regulations are. That's why we hired the attorney. And he's over here like, if you guys get your check cut from title, that looks like you're acting as a broker. And so we called the Association of Real Estate, or whatever their name is, here in Portland. And we were like, hey, is using an assignment assumption contract and getting a check cut from title, is that going to be a red flag for you guys? Are you guys going to come after us? And they were like, no. We were like, honestly, as long as, no, everything's fine. They were really confused about it. They were like, no, we don't care about you. As long as you're not knowingly representing a homeowner and a cash buyer and like really brokering. If you're just talking about the contract and just trying to lawfully assign something that you own, there's nothing wrong with that. So we had to kind of do a lot of reassuring with this attorney. So it was interesting. We were like, we understand. Thank you for your concern. We're going to move forward. We have like all the okays in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So Mariah, if you have already found a title company that knows how to do this transaction, you don't need to deal with the attorney anymore. Once you get the attorney involved, because they go by the rule books, and they're just gonna pull a bunch of stuff. As long as your title company is okay with it, because before they close the transactions, the title company is reliable for making this. It has to be legal. The title company will not put their company online if this is illegal. So if it's illegal, they'll tell you, no, you know what, you have to add this in. We can't do this. We can't do that. Another one thing I want you to check, Mariah, is that go attend your local RIA or go on the local RIA Facebook, because I don't know what the law is in your area, but the disclosure form can be waived. The buyer's going to buy the property as is. It can be waived, so that way the seller doesn't have to go through and fill all that out. So check.
Okay.
So go ahead and check with your the local RIA or maybe on the Facebook. Ask them that questions. In our area, in our state, like that all can be waived. Like the buyer's gonna come in, they are gonna buy it as is, and it's all gonna be waived. Now, my next question for you would be, I think I was going to tell something that was pretty important and I forgot. But as far as when you tell the buyer, do you tell the buyer how much you made before he puts the non-refundable?
No, not at that point. Because he was told in his training that in the area that we're in, that wholesalers should only be making between $2,000 and $5,000 per deal. And we were like, whoa. So we waited because in the assignment assumption, that number was going to be listed. And so we waited just to get him excited about purchasing this awesome house for $419 to the point where he wouldn't be worried about it. So before I sent him the assignment and assumption, I did say, okay, just to let you know, because you're about to see this document, our assignment is going to be $9,500. And then I just kept talking. Like it wasn't a big deal. Yeah.
Gotcha. So here, okay, Mariah, here's another one. So basically when your buyer, basically when you send it out, you said you'll be like, when you send out the assignment agreement, here is the purchase, here's the assignment agreement. The buyer's going to know that he's going to pay, and I don't think it's different in Portland, but you would want to check. So he just know that you're gonna assign it to him for $419. The buyer's gonna drop off X amount of non-refundable. Once the buyer drop off, at the time of closing, right? So basically, on your assignment agreement, typically that he would know exactly how much it is, right? How much your assignment fee is.
Right.
To me, honestly, it seemed like he just trying to nickel and dime you guys.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to do that.
He's just trying to nickel and pretty much nickel and dime you guys. Typically on that kind of buyers, I mean, I would have probably made the same mistake because on our assignment, we send it out because since it's so small, we'll just put on there our assignment amount. But typically if it's large, Mariah, on our assignment agreement, I will not show it. I would just go ahead and say the purchase price is $419. Buyer to put down X amount of non-refundable. Once the buyer put down the non-refundable into escrow, it's done. It's done. Now the buyer want to back out, he's done. And then within the next day or 2 days later, however you want it. Once that non-refundable is deposited, then I'll send over another addendum to the buyer saying assignee shall pay assigner in the total amount of $9,500, which $500 has already been deposited. That's when I send it over the addendum. Oh. So that way now the buyer will know, okay, and my title company will not close the transaction unless we need to state what the whole assignment fee is, so they know to cut us a check, right? So some of you might have a question, say, well, what if the buyer don't sign it? Done, man. The buyer don't sign, he lost his deposit.
So
And
let me get this.
go ahead.
So let me get this straight. So in the assignment and assumption, when you're assigning over your contract, you just have the purchase amount and then the amount that they're to take to title. And then once they sign, they take the thousands of dollars or whatever that amount is to title. Then you send an additional addendum after they're locked in, so that it doesn't, so they can't back out because they've already signed.
You got it.
Okay, awesome.
And that's how I assign without doing a double closing. All right, because when you do a double closing, you got to make sure that you have to put your assignment fee is large enough to cover all those closing costs. And another thing, Mariah, you want to check double closing. Double closing, buyer do not know how much you got the property for until all said and done. So do not worry about limiting your how much you make on it. So you should check that, because basically there's a HUD going from the seller to you. So let's just say that you're going to buy this property. So the HUD's going to drop for $410. You're going to buy from the seller for $410, and then you do a double closing, and all it's going to say on the buyer's HUD, let's just say it's going to go for $450. All it's going to say on the buyer's HUD is he's buying it for $450, and here's all the closing costs that he has to pay.
Yeah, because we asked our title company too, because we weren't sure if our attorney said there's no way around it. He was like, they're going to see it. And then at title, we were like, are you sure we can't double close in Oregon? We were so bummed, Khang. We were just like, whoa, all of our mentors everywhere else in the country, you mean to tell me that like we can't double close in Oregon? She said that, yeah, it's just transparent. They're going to see it no matter what. So what you are saying is the only way that they're going to see, the end buyer is going to see what you purchased the property for, is once everything is finalized.
Correct.
So they won't see it before. They won't be like, okay, that number works. Oh, they're making $50,000. Like, no, thank you. So they're
correct.
Okay.
Mariah, that is correct. So double check. Double closing, that's where they do it, so that way the end buyer, because our assignment fee is so large that obviously we don't want to disrespect a buyer and the buyer think like, oh my God, you know. So that's where we try to hide it from our buyer, because we don't want to upset our buyer. They're happy with what they're buying it at, and all of a sudden, as human, right? As human, all of a sudden that thing comes up where we like, oh, now you start worrying about what the other person makes. So that's why we do a double closing, because we don't want to upset our buyer, and we want to keep this relationship. So on a double closing, you will know exactly what you're getting. You have to come in to close with the seller. The buyer, all they know is this is what they're going to buy it at. Until everything is said and done, until everything closed, Mariah, the buyer can go back. They go back and they check to know how much you actually bought it for. But they actually have to go back into it to check, but it's all said and done, right? It's been recorded. The money has been cut. And that's when they can come back in and they can check to see how much you actually bought the property for.
Okay.
So when you do a double closing, is that the buyers do not know how much you make, period. And but what you do want to take in consideration is, I don't know how much the closing cost is in Portland, Oregon, but let's just say, because you guys do not forget this and have to take this into consideration. So when you talk to the seller, you said, hey, you know what, we're paying for all the closing costs. Is that correct, Mariah?
Yeah.
Okay, so buyer's going to pay all the closing costs. So let's just say Mariah comes in at $410. She's going to buy this property at $410, do a double closing. So she's going to do a double closing at $410, and she's going to send it over to her buyer for $450. So obviously she doesn't want her buyer to know that, you know, there's a $40,000 spread. But Mariah, if you're going to do a double closing and she tells her buyer, hey, you know what, you're buying at $450, and you as the buyer is going to pay for all of the seller closing costs. So you're going to pay for all the closing costs. So now that means they are going to pay for all your closing costs when you come to selling the property right over to them on the same day. But you got to take into consideration that $410, then you pay for all the seller closing costs in our state. So it's about 3%. So you actually going to come in and you're going to close on it. So you're going to come out at $422. So $422, and the buyer's paying for all your closing costs. So net to you at closing is $450. So there's nothing coming out of $450. So you take $450 minus $422, so you walk away with in your pocket $28K. So you got to make sure when you do a double closing that there is enough spread in there, because if you're gonna lock it for $410 and you're gonna double close for $419, That's not going to work because you already in for 422 already. Does that make sense?
Oh, I see. Because they charge you 3%.
Well,
that's what you're saying?
Yeah. So in our state, so you got to check with your title company. Go ahead and just ask them. They say, well, Mariah, depend on the price. I can't give you a solid number. What you want to do is you just want them to give you a percentage. So hey, I just want a rough number. Give me a percentage. Give me a percentage on how much the closing costs. If we were to pay for all the closing costs and including the seller and our closing costs. Because you want to get that number so you know when I can double close and when I cannot double close. Because you got to take all those fees in consideration. There you go. That was the thing that I was gonna tell you. So double closing, it should be legal, and also too is the buyer do not know how much you make at the time of closing. Period. They should not know. If your title company said, hey, so ask your company, hey, what is going to be shown on the buyer's HUD? What is going to be shown on the buyer's HUD? And they say, well, it's going to show that you're going to purchase for 419. You might have to find a different title company because it should not show.
And that's exactly what she said. And they kept bringing it back to like the state of Oregon. So we know that there is another title company that is actually wholesaler friendly that a lot of people use. Okay, this was a big learning experience. So the next deal, we're definitely going to go with the other title company because it sounds like they know certainly what to do. And also more creative ways to close, because the closing officer, the escrow officer I was speaking with was like, hey, this is going to show on the HUD. There's no reason for you to take on the risk of double closing. Let's say your buyer, for whatever reason, doesn't purchase from you and you've double closed and it's just more risky. So why even do it? And our attorney was saying that too. So I think we're definitely going to go with this other title company and just try to network with some more people who understand what we're doing, because a lot of people don't here anyway.
Yep, that's correct. And the thing is, you guys, do not take no for an answer, and then don't let your title company say something to you and you'll be like, well, I heard something like this that everybody's doing it, but why you say no? Continue to reach out to other people, wholesale investor in your area, and ask them. And that's the best way to get a good title company. And you know that you don't have to do any more research because it's somebody already using it, and then they can give you that information. Having a good title company or an attorney that know how to do these kind of closing, you guys, will be tremendous, because typically for us, we send it in and that's it. Like, I just sit back. They do everything. If there's something comes up, then they'll give me a call or shoot me an email, but typically they handle everything. They call the seller, they connect with them, they get them to come in. If there's any liens on it, they'll call and let the seller knows that their proceed instead of this is going to be this much and all of that, and they're going to make your process so much easier. So if that's what your title company said, Mariah, try a different one. So when you double close, that's when you make your larger assignment fee. Do not let anybody limit on how much they put down and how much you can make. I have done deals where I make way more than the guy's going to flip the property multiple times. So don't tell them, hey, the average is, don't. My wife used to tell me when I first started, I said, yeah, you know what, Vaughn, I think I'm a 15, 20K, I think I'm a 15, 20K wholesale guy. That's like my average. She said, Khang, why would you want to limit yourself by with that number? Like, why? Like, why? And that's when I say, yeah, why? So, my assignment fee now is like 25 to 30K on an average 50. We're doing a 60K wholesale deal. And I know in Portland, there's a guy that is just crushing it, making over $5 million between wholesaling and flipping. And he's making, like, his assignment fee is huge. So Mariah, do not let that, do not let the 5 to between, like, that's just the flipper telling you that because they don't want you to make a large profit.
Yeah. When he said that, I was like, okay, cash buyer, you just keep thinking that. But I mean, it was good for him, I think, to be like, hey, if I'm going to be working with these people, I think on his end, if he can flip it in time, because people stop purchasing kind of in September when it starts getting colder here. So if he can flip the house by then, he should be making around like 30,000 or something, which I guess was low for him. He's trying to like make us feel bad for his low. And I was just like, hey man, this is what it is. This is what it is. You signed up for this.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. So Mariah, let's wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, Mariah, any word for those who's starting out, who are in the shoes where they haven't closed their first wholesale deal, give them some inspirations, some motivations.
You just have to do it. Like, just put it in your mind, write it on your wall. On my vision board, I have just do it. make a list for yourself the night before of all the action steps you need to take today, and then just do it. Just close your eyes, make the phone calls, go on appointments. You have to practice because it can be awkward. So you need to get used to those situations and how to navigate that. And yeah, just don't procrastinate. It was kind of hard for me. It was like, oh, I'll make those calls later. Oh, I'll send that. I'll do that later. And the next thing you know, it doesn't get done and your pipeline's not filled. And so the lessons that I'm learning is you have to keep going. Yes, celebrate the small wins, but just make your list and do it and stick to it so that we can get to a place, you know, that Khang is in right now. And then we can have our wisdom nuggets to drip all over everyone else.
Thanks, Mariah. Thanks, Mariah.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to know, hey, how do I connect with her?
Oh man, I suppose you could email me if you want to. My last name is Talicuran, TALICURAN, MARIAH @gmail.com. I'm on Instagram. I don't really do too much real estate. I don't put my real estate stuff out there yet because I'm still learning. But yeah, email me if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help you if I'm able to.
Fantastic. And you guys, I make sure, Mariah, if you can email me over your IG name, I'll drop your email address as well. I'll drop that in the descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And here's one thing that, and this is completely up to you, Mariah. And I heard this from Gary Vee, and he said, don't create, documentate. So he said, document, don't create. People love document. People love seeing people's journey. I wish that because I wish when I first started here, I would have documented everything so you guys can see how the growth is and how all the hurdles, and people love to watch that, Mariah. So if you are, you know, and when you start your own, it opens up so many doors and people that you connect with, it's just so awesome. So I'm saying if it's something you want to do and create your channel, don't wait. I think you should do it now by letting
I love Gary Vee,
your journey.
Yeah, you are totally right. You are totally right. It's definitely something I've been thinking about, and I love Gary Vee, and I hear him say that all the time. You know, he's just so pro being yourself, and yes, document, don't create. So I'm definitely, now that you said it, I'm definitely going to take it more seriously because it's true. It allows you to network with more people, and you never know where people are along their journey. Maybe you can help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people like to see the realness, the trench, the hurt, the hurdle, all of that you go through, right? We've seen so many people have already made it, then they start the whole thing. But people like to see that kind of thing. And I wish I would have started way back and document the whole journey so you guys understand that things don't happen overnight. It happened over time. And I can share with you guys, sit down, share with you guys tons of stories and mistakes that I've made. Everything that Mariah just said, I made all the mistakes that she did, so I know completely how she feels. So Mariah, my channel, I don't think I only subscribe to one or two other person. So when you do, shoot me an email. I'll be your subscriber.
Oh, thanks, Khang. I appreciate that. Thank you for everything, Khang. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. And Mariah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. And you guys, if you want to connect with her, link is in the description. And if you do enjoy this, come on now, smash the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up. Congrats to Mariah, and give her a thumbs up, you guys. Thank you so much, Mariah. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Khang.